empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order, everybody. We are back. It is Saturday night. We are rocking. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, but hope you guys are good. Hope you guys enjoyed that spring game. I thought it was a spectacular day in the shoe. A lot of star power in the building. Really a nice day for some football. The weather couldn't have been more perfect. They said we had about 75,000. It looked like we had about 50,000, but it was everything I wanted. All I wanted was no injuries. You know, I know that we didn't get to see Devin Brown. That was kind of disappointing after he had hand surgery, but hey, you know, the defense, I think, is taking a step. I think that Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau are going to be a lot of a load for some of these tackles in the Big Ten. So I'm really excited about their progress. I think that Jack Sawyer is really excited to have his hand on the ground playing defensive end opposite JT. And they wreaked havoc today. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I am not as worried about the offensive line as everybody else seems to be. I think that it's a spring game. I've seen O-lines look terrible in the spring game. It's kind of a mishmash. It's vanilla play calling, vanilla pass protection schemes. It's kind of just, you know, it's tough out there when you're playing tackle because you kind of just hang those guys out to dry the whole time because you're just running very basic pass protection. So, hey, and we're going against two of the best ends in the country. So our guys will be all right, though. I think we'll scheme them up. We'll get them ready to go. Again, I would put Donnie Jackson at left tackle. I've been saying it since day one. I think he's our best player. But, you know, they wanted to see if we could get Tigran Zen to hang in there at the right side, Josh Fryer left tackle. But I think if you want a dominant pair, you put Donnie out at left tackle and you put Josh Fryer back at right tackle because you need to be able to pass block in this league to keep Kyle McCord and whatever other guy is going to be back there upright. But I thought Marvin looked great. You know, Chip Traynum has flashed every time he's had the ball. I think with Trey Henderson being the best player in the room by far, he has to get the first crack at it. But, you know, Trey's got to stay healthy too. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to take some questions. But as always, you know, very thankful and grateful for you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We are growing like crazy. Our message board was insane today. You know, 2 big commits, a lot more coming. It was great catching up with some of these, the South Florida Express kids are up here. So I saw Brandon Ennis, I saw JJ Smith, superstar kids coming from South Florida up here, Aaron Nolan. So you got 3 South Florida Express kids kind of making up your battery for that 2024 class. So it's really exciting to see these kids. They love it up here. Great seeing Garrett Wilson. I saw Nick Petit Frere. A lot of the kids that I really love. JT Barrett, one of my all-time favorites. Cardell. Even Zed Keys, a kid that I really got a lot of respect for playing hurt through that shoulder injury. I spent some time with him upstairs in the Huntington Club. Just a great guy. So, you know, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. There's, you know, the foundation was doing a bunch of stuff today. I know Cohesion had the 50-50 drawing. So I think the NIL stuff's starting to sharpen up a little bit. So it's going to be interesting. I think that eventually, if we want to be big boys, we all just merge into one NIL group and work together. But as of now, we have 3. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins the dog-eat-dog competition. But I'm, you know, again, there's a lot of moving and shaking that goes on upstairs at these spring games. So you're seeing a lot of guys trying to get some stuff done, and it was really cool. But on the field, like, again, I know that the defense looked better. Again, they didn't blitz a single time. They ran base defense, so it's very granular stuff to evaluate because there's not really, you know, much to do. You know, it'd be like if you evaluated an NBA team based on playing street ball or something. There's no structure to it. So, but, you know, I thought the corners really looked good. I thought Denzel Burke has come a long way from a confidence standpoint. You know, from the beginning of the season, you know, 2 years ago when he was a true freshman, he was just out there playing. He was playing really good. I had guys, you know, on the team telling me that he was balling. You know, against Oregon, even though we lost that game, he was out there balling. And, you know, he kind of flatlined. And then, you know, last year, you know, for whatever reason, like none of our corners played with any confidence. This year, different group. I think Davidson Igbinosin and him are a really dynamic duo. Throw in Jordan Hancock. You've got 3 really good corners. You know, they got to stay healthy. But, you know, I think Denzel was really banged up last year as well. But he's the guy that could be an All-American. I think he's got that kind of ability. He gets to go against Marvin and Emeka every day. So you got to bring your lunch pail to work every day when you go against those guys because you can't take a day off, for those guys will absolutely destroy you and shred you. And I think that makes Denzel better. I think when he gets to Saturdays, it's like a cakewalk after going against Marv all week. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm going to break down a couple plays. I'm going to break down Max LeBlanc, who is our new tight end, who's actually from Montreal. Lives in Tennessee now. Sam Williams-Dixon was a kid that we easily expected to commit. He's a Pickerington kid. And could there be some more? Are we going to go portal shopping? Are we going to go after the big D-tackle from Georgia? I don't know if we can afford that guy, but he'd be great to get. But a lot of moving and shaking. I full expect 5 to 10 guys to hit the portal this week from Ohio State. I just think that's kind of the natural progression of college football. Again, it is what it is, but you just gotta have to keep grinding through it. So, gotta take your questions, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's a little bit of a late night. I'm gonna break down Chip's run first. I was watching this, so you see me look like a little floating head thing here, but this was a really neat little play. Again, it's a simple play. These guys are running about the most basic offense and defense as you can. Tigra is a kid who's got a lot of talent, so I got him circled here. So Tigra's got a stretch here. This is a real basic play. A kid that is really coming on from people I talked to in the program who none of you guys know is Andy Gird's son, Patrick Gird. He's kind of like a Mitch Rossi type fullback kid. Really a good player. Like I was watching this tape and I watched some of the spring game and he looks good. So Tigra does a nice job here, but he has to get this hand inside. Like, I mean, this is something that'll get called every time. So, it's a good stretch, but he has to work to refit his hand because he stretches that cloth, and you don't want to be the guy that does that and they throw the little yellow laundry on the field and it brings back the 60-yard touchdown. But, Andy Gird's son, Patrick, does a great job blocking Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles is fantastic today, too, but this is the block that springs the whole play is him blocking Sonny. So, he's a kid that nobody really knows, but I'm telling you, like Patrick Gird's going to be a good player for this fall. But it was good seeing Vic Cutler out there. He's the kid that we got from Louisiana Monroe. Center, he's playing center. He played tackle for them. He's in there at center again. The kid, he's just figured out, but he gets a nice reach here on Hero Canoe, and Hero Canoe had probably the best day of his life. He had a sack, 2 tackles for a loss, a lot of production. The backside's good. I think that you could put a hand on him a little bit more, but they get it done. It gets enough. And again, this is all it takes in a running game like this to crease it, and all of a sudden you've got a 60-yard touchdown. So again, Chip is flashed, man. He's a guy that I know a lot of people want to sleep on the guy, but he's a guy that's got a lot of ability, a lot of talent. And the biggest thing is he's been healthy. He played really good against Michigan. I'm gonna flip on some Max LeBlanc real quick for you guys. But yeah, I'll take some of your questions. Sue, what's up? Brass Tacks. Nevada is eating dinner with his family. He's a West Coast guy, so I got in a little bit late. And I was like, I'm just gonna just hang out with you guys for a little bit and just take some questions. And I just felt like breaking some film down, especially with 2 commits. Obviously, it's sometimes it's fun to challenge yourself a little bit and do a solo monologue. So I'm gonna get Max's film up here. So Max LeBlanc is a kid. Just make this a little bit smaller. Again, he's from Tennessee by way of Montreal, which is different. So we got a French-Canadian tight end, but really big kid, really good-looking kid. If we're taking him this early, then he's obviously a player. Class of 24 tight end. So again, it's exciting to get some of these kids. I think that when these kids are on campus and they're around that really nice weather, it makes it fun. I think that it's easy for them to get excited and want to pull the trigger. And that's why we always seem to get a bunch of commitments when we're in the middle of doing this, because I think people really like it because they have they've just got some there's a lot of excitement in the air. The weather's great. I mean, again, that's the thing that you always pray for when you're Mark Pantoni and some of these recruiting guys is you want to make sure that you've got some good weather, and we've got some some energy. Like I said, it helps when the shoe has 70,000 people, and then when you turn on TV, you see other schools have 2,000 people, 5,000 people, basically an empty stadium. So here he is coming across the middle, playing tight end. Again, he's a big kid. He's listed at 225, so he's probably bigger now, I would imagine. But really nice looking athlete, which is good. I watched this film just briefly, but you see him split the seam, go and get it, which again is a great over the shoulder catch. Again, in our offense, it's almost a running joke how little we use the tight ends. But when we start getting some of these guys, like I can't imagine Jelani Thurman doesn't become a weapon for us after watching him today, because he looks fantastic. And all spring, they've just raved about him. Him and Carnell Tate are going to push for playing time this year as freshmen because they're just not scared. But yeah, I just like I said, I like his film. Good looking kid. Our tight ends are they're really going to be a strength of the next years. I mean, Cade is an All-American caliber tight end this year. Then you go to Jelani. You got Joe Royer is a really, really good looking kid. So there's a lot of depth at the tight end room. It's been really good. I thought Proctor was okay. I'm just going through some of these. I'm looking. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top. Jesse. Okay, there are tackles in the portal that OSU is looking at, but I don't see any to me that are better than Zenner Tigra. I think it just depends on who. The thing you have to remember with these NIL tackles is they want two things. They want guaranteed NIL money, and they also want a guaranteed starting spot. And that's why Ohio State hasn't been great in the portals, because they're not guaranteeing these guys starting jobs unless they're, unless you have Orlando Pace or you have Paris Johnson in the portal. It's hard to guarantee a guy, who is second team all Big 12 or something, as and it's not a great tackle conference, to be the starting tackle. And then you kind of cut down your culture when you guarantee it to someone who didn't come here, who hasn't done the winter conditioning, hasn't done the summer conditioning. And they say, okay, you're going to be our starter. Because, there's a big left tackle from Oklahoma State hit the portal. He's not very good. He looks great. He's a big dude, 6'8", 320, but he's got slow feet. And I don't know if he's better than the guys we got. I think that's the kind of the balancing act you do with the portal. I think with corner, when we were losing J.K. Johnson to LSU, you have to go get a Davison Igbinosun to replace him. Tackle, the biggest thing about tackle, because people are always wondering, why are we so thin at tackle? I'm like, well, we've had just an incredible amount of attrition because of the portal and also because of the NFL draft. I mean, Nick Petit-Frere left early. Paris Johnson left early. DeJuan Jones left early. We've had 3 tackles leave early in 2 years. That's never happened in the history of Ohio State. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of any college football program. So when something like that happens, you're going to be a little bit thinner at tackle, because a lot of these kids, when they're coming out of high school, why can't we get a 5-star kid behind Paris? Well, he's like, well, I'm not going to be able to start for 2 or 3 years because you guys have Paris and DeJuan at the left and right tackle. So that makes it a little bit more of a chore to get some of these kids in the boat, because these kids, they're obsessed. Before the NIL came out, they always were obsessed with the depth chart. How quickly can I play? And a guy that I thought was really good today was Luke Montgomery. Like, Luke Montgomery really can move. He's got really good feet. He's a really good pass blocker. I think he's the guy you got to put him in at right tackle and to see how he does. He's probably a little too light right now. I mean, I think that's probably his biggest detriment. He looks like he's about 285, 290-ish, but he can hang in there. In a year, he'll be 305, and he'll be really athletic and really flexible, and he can really change direction and pass protection. And I think that's what's going to make him a really elite tackle at Ohio State. Because, again, the most important thing for a modern offensive tackle is pass blocking. Because, you look at how much we throw the ball 75% of the time, it seems like. So, run blocking doesn't mean anything. I had a great offensive line coach, Paul Alexander, who is the Bengals line coach for 30 years, literally say, how many tackles in the NFL can't run block? A ton of them. How many tackles in the NFL can't pass block? None of them. So it's like, if you get these franchise quarterbacks, man, you're going to get them killed if you don't get good pass blocking tackles. But yeah, I again, love seeing you guys in here. Appreciate you guys as always. Yeah, Stu, I think that they were really light on the penalties. There were some holds that weren't called. I saw Jack Story get hold 4 or 5 times. I think that the referees were probably instructed to kind of let a lot of it go. I didn't see many penalties all day, so I think it was kind of a loose game in terms of the officiating, which again, it's a spring game. Nobody really cares who wins and loses. Like, again, I thought it was a great day, a lot of good recruiting, good weather, and nobody got hurt. There wasn't that Mitchell Melton ACL that kind of takes the air out of the balloon at the end of the spring game. So, but yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. Yeah, Jelani Thurman looks fantastic. I agree, Jesse. I think that George Fitzpatrick's got a nice future. Like, again, I watch these guys practice and I watch their footwork. Like, I love seeing how well they vertically set, how smooth are they, how confident are they, how efficient are they, if you will, like with their footwork. Because if they've got good footwork, they have a chance. Some of these guys, they can't even get out of their stances because they're so inefficient, they're so stiff. And it makes it hard. I'm just telling you, because like when you're going against a guy like JT Tuimoloau, if you get a little bit of a hitch in your giddy up, you're a little slow off the mark, you're gonna get smoked, because he'll get up under you and bull rush you, or he'll get around your corner, and that's just something that it takes time. It takes getting beat up a little bit. I think that's something that some of these young tackles they've never seen defensive ends like they're going to see at Ohio State, and it's not their fault. But like when you play it in Findlay, Ohio, and you're Luke Montgomery, how many 4 and 5 star defensive ends do you go against in your entire high school career? Like 1 or 2, maybe, and then you get to the Army All-American game, you're playing against Keon Keeley and guys that are 5-star superstars. So it's a big level jump, but that's just a natural progression of college football. But when you're like in a state like Ohio and it doesn't have the high end linemen like you do in the South, then it is a little bit of a different deal. I'm going to put on some Sam Williams-Dixon because he committed tonight. Kid out of Pickerington, long rumored silent commit, finally pulled the trigger tonight. And again, I think that's good. Yeah, when these guys are local kids and they have an offer, like if you're a kid like Sam, I don't think you can wait too long, just because I don't think he's good enough that they would hold a scholarship for him. If 2 big time national running backs wanted to jump in the boat, I don't know if you hold one for this kid, but he got in the boat, which is smart. Like I said, some of these guys, they wait too long, and all of a sudden there's no room left at the inn. And, what a tragedy it would be for an Ohio kid to not get it. But again, he's real shifty on tape. I like him. He's a little guy, which is, it's kind of interesting because, I think that we've had more bigger power backs, more Mayan Williams. Trey's not huge, but he's really explosive. Chip is a thumper. But yeah, he's a nice player. Like, I think he's a guy that's a good add to the class. Like I said, this class is going to be 28, 29 bodies by the time we're done, depending on what we like in the portal. That's the interesting thing now is you have to hold spots for the transfer portal. But I don't think we're ever going to be a team that's taking more than 3-4 guys in the portal a year. I don't think we're going to be one of these teams that takes 10, 15. I think it erodes the culture of your locker room when you do that. In some of the recruits, a lot of them are still here, Sue. The ones I talked to, they're guys that are, they're SFE guys, so they're all Ohio State leans and they love it up here. It'd be interesting to see how David Saunders, the big tackle from Georgia, did. Again, that's going to be, if we pull that kid out of Georgia, it'll be a miracle of God because he is a superstar left tackle. But he was up here today, and again, the sun was shining, and he got to see Paris Johnson, who's about to be a millionaire in about a month. So, I think that it's, again, we do all we can do on these visits. We do a really nice job. Like I said, the atmosphere and the vibe is great. And really, the people that support Ohio State, like you fine folk, are the key to the atmosphere being great. Because you guys show up, you show out, you're loud, you have a great time in the horseshoe. And you can't take that for granted. Because, I watch spring games all day. There are like 50 spring games going on today. And these crowds are 4,000, 2,000, 1,000. It's dead. It's kind of demoralizing if you're a football team and you walk out and the stadium's empty or whatever. When I played in 2006, that stadium was 105,000. It was literally a complete sellout for the spring game. And again, we actually charge admission for the spring game. Like, Alabama for the longest time would be like at 100,000, but theirs was free, so anybody can walk in and sit there and they count them as attendance. Like, we charge for admission, so it's a totally different ball of wax when our fans actually have to pay their hard-earned money to come to the stadium. And again, I know that the tickets are incredibly expensive. I know that the everything is expensive, the parking, everything. So it's fun when people get to come and just kick it and not really worry about how much it costs. It's like $15. So again, I love seeing the shoe full. I love seeing the band and people just rocking out and enjoying the game. And I thought it was good. I wish that we would tackle a little bit more, but that's just me. That's just me being an old head, I guess, because that's kind of what I like. But I'll take you guys' questions. Again, I think Kyle McCord, he was okay. It's whatever. Chip was kind of the star there. He had that long run, 110 yards rushing. Kyle was 18 for 34 for 184 with a touchdown, was sacked 3 times. Probably could have been sacked about 7 times if they would have counted it. But, again, I think our D-line's good. I think we still need to get a little bit more out of some of the interior guys. Some of those guys got to get in better shape. They looked winded. They looked tired. They looked like they weren't going particularly hard. But, I think that there's tremendous upside in our front four. I can't imagine outside of maybe Georgia or Bama, there being a better defensive line in the country than the 4 guys we're going to have out there with JT and Jack leading the way. And I think that that's going to be important. And again, I think that ties with our corners in a major way. With Jordan Hancock and Davidson Gbenosin, and Denzel Burker, I think, is kind of the ringleader right now. Having those guys not have to protect as long will make them look better. 'Cause I truly believe that Jack Sawyer coming back to defensive end will kind of recalibrate his career. Because I think that it was a wasted year playing the Jack last year. 265-pound linebacker just didn't really work. Didn't play enough snaps, in my opinion. So now that he gets to actually play a full cachet of snaps, I think it's going to be a huge, huge edge for our defense. And I think when you're a guy who's that big, it helps if you come out of a 3-point stance because you can keep your leverage. You're not playing as high. I played defensive end in high school, and I hated being in a 2-point. I liked being in a 3-point because I just felt like I had better leverage. So oh man, Jesse, I don't know, man. Kenyatta, he got a long way to go to be Chase, but you got to remember, Chase Young wasn't really Chase Young until 2018. Chase Young looked like an alien when he got to campus, but he wasn't. He was okay. In 18, but in 19 is when he became like the world beater monster of the universe. So it took a little hot minute. I think I'm gonna throw some Sam Williams on, or not some Sam Williams. Excuse me. I'm gonna put on some other guys that were at the game today. I'm gonna put some David Saunders on. But yeah, like I said, I love watching some of these. Actually, you know what I'm gonna put on? I got some old Luke Montgomery film for you. So this was when he was at camp. He was a lot younger, a little smaller. But again, I just love watching the movement skills. So here's young Luke. This is probably about 20 pounds ago. But when you see how fluid he is, off the mark, again, I videoed every rep he did when I was at camp just because I liked watching, the mechanics of how he ran, how fluid. And again, I'll get into some of the drill work because that's where you can really tell. Here he is, just kind of going around cones. And again, he's just a really, really fluid kid. Hang on one second. Get this back going. Apologize, guys. So, I'm going to flick this off. But yeah, and I'll take some questions right now, so while we're at it. Because let's see who else we got. Actually, I'm going to put some Sanders on. What question you guys got? Yeah, I don't know if Chase Birch. No, is that you, Mike D? Is that my boy right there? I gotta look at some of his film. See if CJ Hicks. I think Ryan Shazier's a really good comparison for CJ Hicks. I don't think he's as fast as Ryan because Ryan was like a 4.3 guy, but that's a great comparison for CJ. He could be like Shazier. Now he's got to play. The hard part is, when we're running that down safety, we don't really play a Sam linebacker anymore. Like that Sam linebacker that Darian Lee used to play would be the perfect spot to put either Sonny Styles or CJ Hicks. But I think that those guys both have to play. I think that's one of the biggest things that, Jim Knowles is going to have to figure out is how do I get these guys on the field? How do I get CJ and Sonny on the field when they're two of the best 11? Do you put, Sonny at safety to start off? I mean, I don't know. That's the thing that's kind of tough. I think Marvin will be the X. He'll be the main outside guy. I think that the Z will be, obviously, it'll be Julian and Jaden to start. But I honestly, if you put a gun to my head, I'd put Carnell out there, just have him do it. Because I think he's better than Julian or Jaden, in my opinion. I think Carnell Tate is better. I think Carnell Tate's one of the 3 best receivers on the roster right now. And people might think I'm crazy, but I don't really care. I think he's that good. Emeka will be our slot. Again, I think Brandon Ennis will be a guy that'll work behind Emeka and get some burn early in the season. I think that, he's kind of like Emeka. He's not as shifty as Emeka, but he's tough as nails. He's a guy that can play in the middle of that field. So this is some David Sanders. This is the superstar, number 1 tackle in the country, out of Georgia. He was at the shoe today. Again, if we get this kid, it'll be time to pop champagne and drink cigars because he's a monster. Really a good-looking player. Again, he's down in Georgia, so that'll be a tremendous pull for Ryan Day and Justin Fry. And frankly, he's going to need a big NIL ticket. So, tell the foundation and Cohesion and the 1870 Society to go start, ringing the Salvation Army bells in front of the stores because we're going to need a lot of money to get this kid. But yeah, I think Carnell Tate is just going to be, him, Ennis, and J.J. Smith will be as good as Marvin, Emeka, and Garrett Wilson. When you had that kind of trio with Olave, those guys could be every bit as good as those. I think that J.J. Smith could be the next Marvin Harrison Jr. I think J.J. might even be a quicker player. He's a top 10 hurdler in the state of Florida, high hurdle guy. So, that hip explosion is unbelievable. Like, Ted Ginn was an elite hurdle guy. Again, I like certain traits. Ezekiel Elliott was an elite hurdler in track. Like, Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel taught me a lot about recruiting, and they just never seem to miss on these high. Brian Hartline was a high hurdle guy. So, there's just something to these guys that are really good hurdlers in terms of their explosion, the hip flexibility, how they can just, turn the jets on. And again, when I saw JJ run track and run hurdles, I was like, holy cow. And he is a huge kid. He's like a Julio Jones, 6'2", muscular, and just fast as the wind. So, again, that's the guy I'm really excited about. I'll probably put his film on next just because it's Saturday night and we're trying to have some fun. The O-line, should there be concern? I don't know if concern is the right word. I think that they might have to reshuffle some things. Obviously, they're going to go through the portal. But you guys have to remember, they're playing against two ends that are better than anybody they're going to see all year, or pretty close. There might be one guy in the Big Ten or two guys in the Big Ten or on the schedule that are as good as JT and Jack. So, those guys are really good. Like, I think our D line is actually really good. So, but that O-line is, they're losing Luke Whippler, who's going to be probably a second or third round pick. Paris is going to be a top 10 pick, could maybe be a top 5 pick. DeWand, probably a second round pick. But so, it's a big, it's a lot to replace. These guys, this isn't Madden. This isn't some plug them in and, you don't just lose Paris Johnson and it not hurt you at all. And people, they say stuff about like the O-line recruiting and the tackle recruiting. The last 10 years has literally been the best recruiting in the history of Ohio State for the offensive line. And if you don't believe me, go add up the stars, go add up the draft picks, go add up the major awards, because we had two guys win the Remington, multiple All-American, Thayer Munford and Nick Petit for both first-team All-Americans, Paris first-team All-American, DeWan first-team All-American. So the recruiting has actually been fantastic. I don't know where this narrative came from. I think it's really stupid. But, I just think that, again, we had Ryan Jacoby went in the transfer portal. Max Ray went in the transfer portal. So there's two tackles right there that would probably be starting this year. They'd probably still be here. Nick Petit goes pro. DeWan goes pro. Paris obviously goes pro. Center goes pro. So we've got a lot of attrition, and it's hard to combat losing 3 guys early to the draft that you didn't really expect to lose early. Like Luke, no one except for me, because I just have really good sources, I guess. If I knew that Luke Whippler was gone in the middle of the season, and then the coaching staff was like shocked somehow that they didn't have any idea that he was leaving, but I knew he was leaving. But I don't know. Like, it's I think that there's a lot of talent in that room. I think it's pretty deep room. I think, in my dream scenario, you put Donnie at left tackle, put Enoch in there. Enoch started, a game last year. He's a 5th-year guy. He's an older guy. Then center, I'd have put Matt Jones at center. It'd be interesting to see what we get out of Jacob James. That's a guy that unfortunately couldn't practice this spring, but he's a guy that really is a guy that, like, Luke Whippler thinks he's going to be the starting center next year. And he's a guy that missed all of spring. So I don't think that job was won by any stretch by Carson Hinsman. I think that he had an opportunity to, but I don't think that he played up to the level to completely shut the door on Jacob James. And then, you look at right guard, obviously it'll be Matt Jones. He's a 6-year guy. So you got to expect he'll be an all Big Ten level guard, being, a 24-year-old guard in the Big Ten. So, and then right tackle is kind of the big question mark. Do you want to lock the tackles down and put Josh Fryer back out there and Donnie at left tackle? That's what I would do. They did not do that this spring. I think they're trying to figure out if Zen could do it, and Tigra and all these other guys. But I always think it's easier to find guards than tackles. So, I want my tackle pass protection to be as rock solid as possible. So to me, Donnie's the answer at left tackle. But again, it'll be interesting to see what Justin Fry does, if that's the answer. And you have to remember, in 2021, when we started training camp, the offensive line was Thayer Munford at left tackle, Josh Fryer at left guard. It was Luke Whippler and Harry at center, Harry Miller. The right guard was Paris Johnson, and the right tackle was Nick Petit. And after 5 or 6 practices, all of a sudden they moved DeWan into the starting lineup, and they bumped Thayer into guard. Thayer never played guard in his life, but Thayer did one of the most, unbelievable things I've ever seen in the history of Ohio State, where he went from being like an all Big Ten level left tackle and moved into guard, had an okay year at guard, still made All-American, but that allowed us to put DeWan in the unit, and that was the year that we had to run 4 tackles. But they were also called 4 NFL offensive linemen. So you couldn't have DeWan sit on the bench for another year when he was that talented. And we had a really good year. We had 6 guys make all Big Ten that year, which has never happened in the history of the Big Ten Conference. So that O-line was actually probably the most talented room that we've ever had. But again, and I am not like some, diehard blind O-line apologist. I just look at statistic and numbers because people lie and numbers don't, and look at the awards and look at the rushing and the total offense, and it's pretty good. Now again, we ran at Aiden Hutchinson, and that kind of threw the sour into the mix, because we didn't play that great up there. Obviously, we played like crap, but otherwise the line was really good. What other question we got? Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Perry is really good color. I thought James Laurinaitis was a fantastic. I thought James was the best color guy that was in the thing, and he wanted to get into coaching, and I think the same way about his coaching stuff. But I think everyone, unless you're blind, you can see that Carnell Tate's one of our 3 best receivers right now, and it's not even close. I think that as the season goes on, he's going to eat more and more into the timeshare at the Z. I think that the coaches trust him more than they trust Jaden Ballard. Julian Fleming's a warrior now. He's a tough kid, really good kid, but I don't think he has the ceiling that Carnell Tate does. And when you're a phenom is going to phenom. You put him in the game, and he's going to eat people's lunches and kind of go get it. I'm gonna have to dig up some Jacob James film. That's like kind of like the end of the game stuff, but. Like Jacob again, and here's the thing. I think that Jacob has a chance, but I asked the guys on the team who's good, who's hard to go against. That's how, like I used to talk to Haskell Garrett all the time, and who's hard to go against? Matt Jones, strong as an ox, really tough kid, really, he's kind of up and down motor wise, but when he's on, and he's tough to go against. So that's how, when we build our kind of database of intel on the team, a lot of it is just saying, hey, who's good? Because the players know who the players are more than probably anyone, more than the coaches, more than NFL scouts. Like, players know who the players are, and they don't lie. I mean, they have no reason to lie. I mean, they obviously have homies and people that they don't want to throw under the bus, but they're not scared to say who's good. And when I talked about people in the building and they talk about Carnell Tate, it is like, he is a smooth joker now. He is a guy that gets out of his breaks. He knows how to get with the ball. He's. I had a guy say that he reminded him, from a maturity standpoint, not necessarily, his playing style of like Terry McLaurin. And Terry McLaurin is like, could be like the president of the United States. He's like such a good kid, smart kid, just all business all the time. And that's kind of how JJ Smith is. JJ Smith is a guy. He does not play when he's on that field. It is not a game. I mean, he is coming to steal your soul when he's on that field. He's coming to take a quarterback's soul. That's why I love watching JJ, because JJ's out there, and he's not dancing and having fun. He's out there to go to war, and that's why those are the kind of guys I love. I thought Heartline, it's just so hard because when you're watching a game, and I'm not trying to make excuses in the spring game, but like, you literally you have like 10 different plays you can call, and you're playing against a defense that can't blitz, and they run like 2 coverages. So it's not really that hard. It's like if you were playing blackjack and you knew the dealer always had 16, you could pretty much either fold correctly or take the hit correctly every single time. And that's kind of, the spring game, you can't get anything out of it. Like, Justin Fields in 2019, had like 4 completions, and one was like an 80-yard bomb to Ben Victor or whatever. And then if you delete that from the memory, it was like he went like 3 for 20 for 8 yards or whatever. So again, the spring game is kind of just like fodder. It's something that's fun to do. It's fun to get these guys out in the stadium and get them a little nervous. I do wish they would make the quarterbacks live, because they used to do that back in the day, and it has a lot of anxiety to the offensive linemen. But I get, when Ryan's down to just one quarterback who's out there right now, I get why you don't want him to get hit. But these quarterbacks also haven't done anything yet. So, it's one thing if you're Troy Smith and you're, the Heisman favorite coming back to not get hit. But when you're a bunch of quarterbacks who've never done anything, you've started one game between the 3 of you, you can get hit a little bit. You'll be okay. Here's the thing. What's up, Paul? It's just me tonight. No Nevada. Nevada's he's on the grind right now. Here's the thing about the 4-3. I don't think that the 4-3, unless football is a very secular game, unless it we get back to more running and less throwing. I think the 4-3 is dead forever. I think that 85% of the game is in nickel defense, just because you're playing three receivers so much. I don't know how you can match up unless you put a CJ Hicks out there and hope that he can cover a slot. Now imagine if you're playing Ohio State and you've got Emeka Egbuka as your slot. CJ Hicks is not a good matchup guy. You got to get Jordan Hancock. You got to get a good corner on the field just to be able to run with a guy like that. So that's why I like that. I love the 4-3. Again, I played with Hawk, Schlegel, and Carpenter, so it was kind of like the prototypical. AJ is a prototypical Will, Schleg's a prototypical Mike, Bob's prototypical Sam. But the era I played it, we played a fullback 80% of the time, so it's kind of like a dead and gone era. But I think that we've tried to put more linebackers on the field. Like against Bama, we ran like a 4-4 defense and we gave up about 800 points. So I don't know. Now, if you put Sonny Styles in as the Sam and he's kind of like a safety, that would work. I think Sonny next year in his third year is going to be starting will linebacker for us. I think once Tommy and those guys are gone, I think it's going to be CJ and Sonny as our two linebackers, and that's going to be where he's going to land. I just think he's going to outgrow safety. I think he's a big strapped up dude, man. And it's like, if that kid keeps lifting, he's going to be 235 and he's going to be running a 4-4 and he's going to be the best athlete in America. But where do you put him at this year? Do you put him out at strong safety? I think that's the natural spot for him. I think that early downs, you could put him at nickel, because the nickel is kind of like a Sam linebacker, a walkout guy versus a spread team. So I think Sonny Styles would be a fantastic Sam linebacker, the way that we used to run Darren Lee out there, where we'd walk him out over the slot guy, because Darren had enough speed to cover and disrupt the passing game, and he was really a good zone dropper, and he was a great edge blitzer, which is something that I think Sonny would be fantastic at when they have wide running plays. You bring Sonny off the edge, man. I mean, that'd be terrible to go against, because he's a big dude. He's like 6'4", and he's like, he's a strapped up dude. He's strong as an ox. Again, he's a good player. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Lorenzo Salles Jr., because that's the guy that I still keep hearing that there's a chance he could be a Buckeye. Like, it's a real chance. It's not like I'm just throwing stuff against the wall. But I don't know if Ohio State wants him. I think that he'd play corner. Again, I think that getting Davidson in here kind of muddies it up a little bit. But it's just where does he work into the mix? If he's a starting receiver at Notre Dame versus being another guy, just a guy in our back end, that can be kind of tough. I love the OHIO. Appreciate you guys again. I think, the Gibeah kid, he was okay. Again, Cody Simon is the guy that I love. I think Cody Simon, he's a legit 4-5 guy, 4.52 guy, 40. Really like a workout monster. But 2 years ago, when I thought he was going to be the next great one, no, I can't say AJ Hawk. I might have said he might be the next AJ Hawk, but that's kind of what he reminded me of, because he's a really sudden, explosive guy, but he tore both of his labrums. So, when you're a linebacker and you don't have any shoulders, it's really hard to play linebacker when you're trying to fill against a run and run. So he's kind of been just lost in the world for the last years, because he's been just so injury riddled. And again, that's not anyone's fault, but it also, if you're not available, then you can't, then you're not really worth anything in football. And again, I think he's a great player. I think he's a great kid. And again, I think he's a guy that they got to give him a little bit of a role. They got to, you got a bunch of these guys, and it's a good problem to have too many linebackers when you've got CJ and you got Gabe Powers coming on. CJ Hicks is a kid that looked phenomenal today. You got to figure out their roles, because Tommy and Steele aren't going anywhere. Tommy's probably the best linebacker in America, and Steele's a guy that could make all Big Ten this year. So, you got two guys that are really good, and you got some really good guys behind them, but those guys looked explosive today, man, and they were running fast and hitting hard. And like I said, the corners, I loved watching our corners play today. I think Denzel Burke's the guy that he got beat down last year, and I think he's going to have a really big year. I really do. And I'm not saying that just a sunshine pump all day, because I think that some of these guys will benefit from a better pass rush. And I think our pass rush will be better with Jack Sawyer playing more defensive end. I just think it's all kind of like, it all kind of works together when you do this. I'm trying to see what else I could toss on for you guys. I'm just going to put on a little bit of some spring stuff that we had. But no, like I said, I I'm gonna grade the film tonight. I've got it on my little grading system machine, so I'm gonna watch that later. I'll have like a really good breakdown on BuckeyeScoop.com. But yeah, this is just from practice, the open practice that we went to and we were covering. So, Kai Stokes again. That's another guy. Like really, really good player. Where's his spot? With Josh Proctor coming back, I think it threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. Lathan Ransom obviously is a locked-in safety. Jahad Carter didn't play today; he was hurt. So you got a lot of guys at safety, but I don't know if you have guys that are like you don't have that many guys that you're going to write down today in ink. Like Lathan Ransom's probably the only guy that you write his name in the starting lineup in ink. The rest of those guys, man, it's going to be a dogfight. I mean, if I'm Josh Proctor or one of these guys, and I got Sonny Styles behind me, I'm not sleeping good. I'm going to work out about 8 times a day and eating salad and drinking smoothies and rehabbing like crazy because that kid's a monster. I wouldn't be able to sleep if he was behind me and he was coming from my spot. So, but yeah, like I said, Paul, great to see you, brother. Glad you're feeling better. But yeah, I think I said earlier, I think that Tay could be our starting Z. I mean, if you put a gun to my head today, I'd start him week 1. But I know there's dynamics of Julian's an older guy. He's a senior. It's hard to bench a senior for a freshman. Freshman's got plenty of time here, but at some point, if guys are better players, you just got to play them. Yeah, I agree. I think Davison has been a really big wake up call of those guys. I think those guys all kind of sharpened their pencils when he showed up, man, because he is not there to play around. He is a really talented dude. He's a long, lanky guy, really explosive guy. I don't know how he didn't end up at Georgia or Bama, and I don't know how we didn't offer him when he was coming out of high school because he went to Ole Miss for a year, and then he got here, and he looks like he's a Jeff Okuda type of guy. So interesting. This is a really good question. So, or maybe we should play 3 corners. Now, we are starting to play more 3 corners, actually. It's funny because that was something that was brought up, with Jim Knowles, and I think that the 3 safety thing is a little bit overblown. I think that, if you're playing, someone as your slot guy, it's still, he calls it a nickel, which is nickel defense is 3 corners. So, what's a corner? What's a safety? Do you put Hancock in there at the slot? Do you move Denzel into the slot and put Hancock and Davison as the 2 outside guys? I don't know, but I like having better cover guys in the slot on 3rd down just because, you're going to get a pass. Early downs, it's not bad to have. Like, I'd like to have a guy like Sonny in the slot on 1st down because, if they're going to run it, there's a good chance they're going to run it, and you got Sonny in there. It's like having another sledgehammer on the edge, and he can cover a lot of ground, and he's a big, nasty dude when he gets to the running back. So, I don't know how many more defensive players we're going to get. I think, I'm going to put Booker Pickett on because that's the kid that I think might be next. Booker Pickett is a kid, he goes to Wharton School down in Tampa, and I think he'll be the next guy to jump in the boat. But God, he is a really good looking dude. I don't know how good the competition is. I've never even heard of the Wharton School, so I'll talk to my guys in Miami about that. But Booker Pickett, he is the nephew of Ryan Pickett, former 1st round pick in the 2001 draft for Ohio State. This guy's built nothing like Ryan Pickett. Ryan Pickett was kind of a stumpier defensive tackle, like a 6'2", 320 guy. Booker's they list him. It's hilarious. He's listed at 6'6", 200 on one side. He's listed at 6'2", 185 on another side. I have no idea how big he is. He's probably 6'4". Let me get his film on real quick. But I love watching his tape. If you guys haven't seen Booker Pickett's tape, go get some popcorn and get ready because this stuff is really fun to watch because he had 30 sacks last year as a junior in high school. So I'm going to get this thing cranked up. And again, I don't know how good a football this is. I mean, it's Florida football, but, he just looks like Jadeveon Clowney on tape, and I don't think he's as good as Jadeveon because Jadeveon was 6'6", 260 when he was a senior. So he was ready to play in the NFL when he's an 18-year-old. But this kid's got tools, man. He's got long arms. He's got great closing speed getting to the quarterback. That's something that people don't talk about enough. When you get around that corner, you have that last bit of like nitrous oxide to come out of you to go get that quarterback and close it down. And again, he's got a lot of good moves. He's got like a lot of different moves. Like, I mean, obviously this is just a read option that goes haywire, but he's got a nice spin move. He's got a good long arm, which is like basically a 1-arm bull rush where he just puts his hand right in your chest. but the production is crazy. I mean, 30 sacks, at any level of football is great. But, when you're playing Florida high school football, I mean, that's almost absurd. Here they put him against the back, no chance. I mean, when you're a guy who's a 6'6" guy with long arms like this, a running back has no, because a running back, this guy's probably 5'11". And, when he's let's call him 6'4" to be realistic. His arms are so long that, he's got like little alligator arms, and he's got big, long, and so it's literally impossible to engage on a guy like that. So he goes right around him, gets a sack. But yeah, it's like 5.5 straight minutes of just sacks. Like every single play is like a sack, tackle for loss. But again, he's a guy that as he fills out, because that's the thing, he's really small. I mean, not small, he's just lean, kind of wiry, but he gets up to 240, 245. He's going to be a problem. I mean, he's an explosive guy, and he keeps that speed, matures physically. Those are the kind of guys I love. I love 6'6" defensive ends that could run like the wind, like fast guys. And that's the fun thing about him is, yeah, like I said, Jesse says 247 has him as 6'3", 200. So he's 6'6", 6'3". I don't know what he is. Dylan Stewart is a guy, I think I have his film. We might throw that on next, but he's a guy that I really like too. I don't know. It's just I don't know. Well, here's the thing, and this is a great question. If you throw the bigs out in the nickel, well, that's why like a guy like Sonny Styles is the guy you use, because he's basically like a hyper safety / Sam linebacker. Like, I mean, because he runs like a safety or a corner, but he's as big as a house. He's as big as a defensive end. Like, he is just an absolute freak of nature, and he has no ceiling. Like, that kid can do whatever he wants. He's going to be a first-round pick, and we only have him for 2 more years because he's going to be 3 and out and going to the league. So, we got to get he's like Paris Johnson. Like, Paris Johnson was a guy they knew was going to be a 3 and out guy. So, year 2, like, well, we better play him somewhere. So they put him at right guard. He made second team All Big Ten. Then the final year, they make him a first team All American tackle. So, again, with a guy like Sonny, you just got to throw him out there somewhere and just play him, because he's got so much ability, so much talent. And the only way you get better is by playing. And, you can practice, but you got to go play in the games and kind of cut your teeth and take your lessons. And that's why I think he could be a really, really fantastic player. Appreciate you guys. Well, yeah, I think that, yeah, but to be fair, I mean, I don't know if any of our corners could cover Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's kind of like the thing is, like, I mean, would you put a guy like that against anybody in the slot? I don't think that, if you say, well, he'd struggle against Garrett Wilson, or, if we put Marvin in the slot, I don't know who's going to cover him, but that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, you got to help him somewhere. I mean, I think that, some of our receivers are just so good that it's not even really fair to compare, just because I think everybody's got to go. You against Marvin and Emeka, especially like Emeka in the slot, is just an absolute miserable thing to go against. JoJo Trader was not at the game. JJ Smith was at the game. Like I said, JJ's, I'm pretty tight with his crew. Awesome kid. He had a blast. JoJo did not make it. I think JoJo is getting to be a longer and longer shot by the day. I think he's going to be a Miami guy. I think he's an NIL kid. And JoJo's a great kid. So he's a kid I'd love for us to get. But, see, this is an interesting, because I think that Sonny has more athleticism than Cam Chancellor. Cam Chancellor was a banger. I mean, when he was at Virginia Tech, he was a banger. He's got to knock your head off. Big dude. But I think Sonny's more shifty. I think he's more athletic. I think he has more agility. I think he could be a better Cam Chancellor. And Cam Chancellor was a multiple-time Pro Bowler, might have been an All-Pro guy a couple times during the Legion of Boom era in Seattle. But I think that Sonny's just different. Like, if you put Sonny in the slot, I think he could hang in there. I don't think Cam Chancellor could. Cam Chancellor was that strong safety when Earl Thomas was the free safety. And, I think that Sonny would be like a bigger Earl Thomas, a guy that can cover a lot of ground, good in run support. Again, like the 4th play of the game against Wisconsin last year, they put Sonny in, and he killed Wisconsin's fullback on an ISO play, like killed him. And I was like, oh my God, he's got to start every game from now on. He's the best player on the field. And then he like kind of just went off into the wind, and they didn't play him for whatever reason. So I just think that he's one of the best 11. I don't even think it's close. But it was interesting. Yeah, B-Doc is funny, because I was actually teammates with Brian Dawkins in Denver, my last camp in the league, and B-Doc had like 800 Wolverine figurines in his locker, which is hilarious, because his nickname is Weapon X, so big Wolverine guy. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff going on Buckeye Scoop. Like I said, I'm going to grade the film tonight, so I'm going to have a nice Reddit for you guys tomorrow that are members of BuckeyeScoop.com. Would love for you guys that aren't members to join up. Again, this film is incredible. I love watching it. I could watch this about 1,000 times. But again, who runs faster 40 in 2023? Kirk, that's the greatest question I've ever read. Kirk or Archie? I mean, it has to be Archie, obviously. I mean, he was out there flying, my dude. And I will tell you, in my interactions with Archie Griffin, he is the greatest Buckeye of all time. He is the nicest guy of all time. He's just like, he's such a gem of a guy. Like every time I see Archie, it's just like, and his son's a great kid, Adam. But what a great guy. That was really cool that they did that for Archie. But that's the neat thing. Like I saw, like I said, I saw JT Barrett, I saw Cardell, I saw a ton of guys today, and it's just always fun to see these guys at these little things. I'm gonna put some Dylan Stewart on real quick, and then we'll wrap the show up. But yeah, Dylan Stewart's a kid that I would love for us to get. But he's a guy that DC guy. Trying to figure out that was. Yeah, you had that here. So here's some Dylan Stewart for you. He's a monster now. And again, we didn't close on the DNs the way that I thought we should have last year. We lost Mateo. We lost the kid to Georgia. So it was tough. Here he is. He's kind of a stand-up guy. But again, he's shifty dude, good pass rusher. Larry Johnson's had a lot of, proficiency in that DC, Maryland region. So he's gone fishing out there and got some pretty big fish, especially from his Penn State days. Those almost 10 years ago. But, those ties run pretty deep out there, which is good for us. But yeah, he's an edge rusher, man, and we need him. You can't have enough defensive ends and edge rushers. But yeah, I'm really happy Hero Canoe showed up today too. It was nice to see him get a sack, get a couple tackles for loss, kind of all over the stat sheet, which is really good for us because we need some guys to really step up and be a force on the interior of the D line. Like the two biggest areas on the team, I think offensive tackle something we got to get cleaned up, and I think that the interior of the D line, we got to get Mike Hall playing as an All-American. We got to get Ty Leak in better shape, because Ty Leak has no ceiling. Like Ty Leak could be as good as he wants to be, but he's the guy that he's like a classic guy that you just have to grind as hard as possible to get him to realize how good that guy could be. And Hero Canoe took a nice step today. I think he's got to get in a little bit better shape, but I think he's a guy that's really coming on hard. When he was at camp, he was really explosive, really a tough out for Josh Padilla. And then we got some of the young linemen. Like I thought Luke Montgomery, when I was watching his film, man, I mean, he looked real natural out there at right tackle. He's a guy, pass blocker. I think he'll be a starting tackle as a sophomore next year. He might be a swing tackle backup guy that makes the travel squad this year because he's just a really natural dude. I agree with Israel. I think Sonny has to start. It just is what it is. It is funny with Andy. Andy's a guy I've had him on my podcast before. I need to have him on again. He was actually really, really good. And I could dig that episode up, but yeah, it is weird. Something that's kind of funny about like Ohio State is there's some guys that are seemingly at like everything, and there's some guys that like you never see again. Like Chris Gamble, I haven't seen. Nobody has seen Chris Gamble since he retired from the NFL. He lives down in Fort Lauderdale right now, but he didn't come back to the reunion. Nobody has his phone number. It's just kind of crazy sometimes, but like I wish Troy Smith would come back more. I wish Maurice Clarett would come back more. There's a lot of guys that they're not really back that much. They might come back for one game every 10 years or so, but it was kind of sad. Like I thought the turnout of some of the players, we had like some of the younger players there, but it wasn't nearly as deep as it used to be. And it'd be cool if we could get that fixed a little bit, but it is what it is. But I agree, Israel. Sonny needs to start big time. But I wish Andy would come back more because Andy Castlemore was one of those guys that most people had his jersey when they're growing up. This would be real. Like, I mean, guys like me and Laurinaitis did. And he was a guy that was just a monster. He's like one of the first picks in the draft if you need to pick a Mike linebacker for Ohio State's all-time team, just because of how nasty he was and how big of a monstrous freak he was. Because he was a big dude, but he could run like he was like Urlacher, basically, before Urlacher. Yeah, I agree. Sonny needs to start. I think Here's the thing. I think CJ Stroud really did spoil us. Like, I think that that's going to be the hardest part about this new offense with Hartline is that, CJ's accuracy was probably the best in school history, and he would just drop dimes. And I think that the problem is that we've had such an incredibly high level of quarterback play from even, I know people will scoff at JT Barrett, but JT Barrett won 3 straight silver footballs. Then you get Haskins, then you get Justin Fields, then you get Stroud. So, it's like, the new tier of quarterback for Ohio State is like you got to be a top 10 pick basically, and you got to lead the nation in throwing, and you got to, so, that's a tall task for Kyle McCord, because before we had that little stretch, like, we didn't have that great of an NFL quarterbacking run like we have now with Ryan Day. So I don't know. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out with Kyle McCord. Again, I think he could be really good, but it's all about your infrastructure, it's about your offensive line, your pass protection, Brian Hartline's play calling. There's a lot of stuff that's got to go the right way. But I think that our talent is just so overwhelming and deep that, come on. Like, when you've got Marvin and Emeka and Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes and Jelani Thurman and Cade Stover and Trey Henderson and Mine Williams and Chip and Dallin. It's the most talented skill that I've ever seen at Ohio State. It's not even close, really. Every single room is loaded. We got to find a tackle. Quarterback will be okay, but the rest of the team is just absolutely loaded. And I think the defense will take a big step this year. I really, truly believe that. So, it's exciting. I'm really excited to see what these guys can do. So, I haven't seen Dane back much. There you go. Yeah, Andy's a very quiet guy. Like, he is a very quiet, humble dude. I've interacted with him. He's been great. So, I love Andy Katzenmoyer. So I'm one of his biggest fans, and I wish he would come back around a little bit more. So, well, guys, we're already at an hour. That flew by. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this thing just because I tried to get you guys a good hour of really good content. Because again, I really, truly hope that when you guys watch this program, you feel like you get better. You feel like you learn something about football, learn something about Ohio State. I really put a lot of time in it, so I really appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. I love interacting with you guys. It's just fun. Like, again, I do this purely for joy and pleasure, and I'm just really fortunate that you guys tune in. It was a great day at Ohio State today. The spring game was fantastic. We had a great showing. Again, shout out to everybody that showed up and hung out in the sun for a little bit because it was a beautiful day in the shoe. And again, that is a big boon for recruiting. Recruits notice when the event is live and there's people are excited and the stadium's filled up. That's a big deal. Trust me. I know it from when I was inside the building coaching, when I was a player, as a recruit. It all adds up. So again, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like on the video, click subscribe, shout out where you're from in the comments, baby. It's my favorite thing you guys do. I love seeing where you guys are watching from. Appreciate all of you guys, as always. If you enjoy these live shows, click the little bell next to the thumbs up, thumbs up, and it'll give you a little notification when we go live, because we're trying to do it every day. Again, I love doing it and it's chilling with you guys because it's really fun to do. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you guys are the best. I'm going to get on BuckeyeScoop.com. I got to write up a little game synopsis, some of the thoughts that I had, and just, we're going to get cranked up. So it's going to be here before you know it, guys. We've got summer camp. Recruiting's going to be cranking up. And then it's going to be fall camp, and it's going to be football time, the best time of the year. So thank you guys, as always. I love kicking with you guys. Thank you for spending your Saturday night with me. You guys have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Go Bucks.